a travel agency during the COVID crisis, as well as all the other agencies that are at home, hearing stories in person or via video about what's going on and that you aren't alone during this. Hopefully give you some ideas on how to deal with it. So we are streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So go ahead and tell us all where you're from. Type in what kind of agency you have. So we'll leave some room at the end, probably 10 minutes for Q&As. But feel free to type those in as the Jhawar team, April, Bridget, and Mary are online and ready to answer your questions. They'll also post some resources in the comments. Keep an eye out for those if something comes up. So without further ado, let me do some really quick introductions. So first, we have Jay Ellenby of Safe Harbors Travel in Maryland. It's Hi, Jay. It's a corporate agency that's part of the World Via Group. So may recognize Jay. He's the former ASTA chairman, and he did a testimony last month to the House Committee on Small Business about the impact was having at travel agencies at the time, which was really moving. We'll post a link to it in the comments as well. But thank you for doing that, Jay, and for agencies so early on.
Yeah, you're welcome, Steph. Thank you.
Yeah. Then we have Jeni Chaffer, the president of Jeni Travel Inc., an agency located in Illinois that specializes in honeymoons and destination weddings.
Hello, Steph.
Hey, Jeni. And just to know, I'm so grateful for all of our panelists today for joining us through that.
Thank you.
Yes. And then we have Madeline Jhawar, the founder of Italy Beyond the Obvious, where she consults and books with independent travelers on vacations. And Madeline is also the founder of Travel Beyond the Obvious, which is an online course that helps destination experts start on lists. And we'll chat a little bit about that more later because Madeline has a unique business model.
Hi, thanks for having me. This is fun.
Great. I haven't been near people in so long. I'm so excited to see you guys. All right, so let's just painting the picture for us. So this is pre-COVID. What was January and February like for your agency, all in blissful ignorance for most of it? And then what was kind of the timeline after that when things just fell off? Jay, do you want to start?
We really have to relive that, don't we? Thanks, Steph. Sure. Being the fact that we're corporate, our focus is, as we've mentioned, a very large portion, actually more than the majority of our business is international travel. And then specifically to that, our clients who were doing a lot of business in China and business in the Far East. So quite honestly, as we're looking back, we actually saw it in December. So we saw numbers starting to dip in December. January, they continued to be lower than we expected. And as we started drilling down, yeah, it all made sense. It started to the link to exactly what was going on in that area. And then it just continued to drop, and obviously March blew up. So yeah, that was the track, and that's today.
Mm-hmm. And let's kind of go timeline because we're starting with China, and let's start with then Italy with you, Madeline. What did you see?
Yeah, because we do really custom vacation.
Oh, pain points. Staying positive for myself and for clients. But with the clients, a lot of that is just the uncertainty. The rules have been changing. I mean, it was weekly, then it was just from night to morning. We would have different rules from the same supplier. So a lot of it has been navigating that and trying to be proactive with clients. So making sure we give them that right information and all the options. You know, there's been the issues now that people aren't refunding, but if in 2 days they'd get a full refund. And that comes back on what they look at us to be the expert in travel and the, give them their, it's hard to decipher all of that and stay on top of it.
Mm-hmm. No, it's very true. And Jay, what about you? You're dealing mostly with the airline.
Yeah, I agree with mostly, actually, with everything that's been said so far. But the biggest thing, what's keeping us up at night right now, are the amount of, the airlines are cutting back their service, which makes sense. but the amount of schedule changes that are taking place and reaccommodating those who want to, but bump them out a few months, or even looking at the refunds. So the refunds is a big issue as well. So refunds and um, um, dealing with unused tickets. And so I guess what we're seeing is, as already discussed, is policies are changing as we go, and each carrier is doing it differently. Some a little more consistent than others, but others are coming out with new policy and changes as they go, and difficult to keep on top of. And it's also been, we're doing our best to share that information with the client, but the refunds, as you can tell, the airlines are, it's going to take a long time for them to really process those refunds, and that's going to put a strain on clients who are looking for a refund. So changes, policy changes, schedule changes, and refunds are the biggest things.
For the refund specifically with corporate, because you use the GDS system, some of the airlines are not allowing the refunds in the GDS anymore.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. So they're not allowing it through the GDS. So you have to go through a website. You have to go through their website to process that, which, it's something new. Actually, it's not a bad thing in some cases, but it causes just, some are doing it this way, some are doing it that way. But challenge.
Yeah. Well, so as we're talking about these challenges, it seems like the biggest one, for agencies, and I think everyone in life in general right now, is that everything is changing at such breakneck speeds. You just can't keep up with everything. How are you communicating with your clients, like those that have bookings with you and those that don't have any bookings with you but are clients? Are you communicating with them about these changes? Jay, do you want to take this one right away? Oh, tricky. Yeah, Jay.
I wasn't sure either.
we were both looking at you for a second. Yeah, it's the communication is absolutely critical, because one of the things that the cream rises to the top, and we're here for our clients. Our clients are going to be here for us as well. So communication is critical. That we are communicating all the changes, all the things that are taking place. And by the way, on the corporate side, while there's some downtime, maybe we should take a look at some doing, reviewing your travel policy, do training for some of your staff with respect to online systems. A lot of different, and so we're communicating by, of course, we're calling them, we're emailing them, we're establishing the different trainings, and we're also doing as well. So creating some separate webinars on different pieces. But, this shall pass, and we know all this investment back in the way we do business, and that's, how we're going to continue down the road.
Mm-hmm. Now, Jeni, I feel like I have to really pronunciate. Jeni, go ahead and tell us about how you're communicating with clients.
So when everything started happening, we sent out emails, to all of our existing clients, kind of with some options they would have if they were thinking about it. What we ran into was people still wanted to go on spring break, but places they worked were saying, well, you can go, but you're going to face quarantine. You fired, giving them all these ultimatums. So we tried to address some of those right up front to everybody. And then we followed up with regular emails, everybody like up to date. And, unfortunately, everyone is so busy with rebookings right now that a lot of our clients that are rebooking, we just can't get answers. So it's just a matter of making sure they know that I'm on it, even if they don't hear from me for 2 or 3, 4, even a week in some cases. We've been doing with our current clients. Like I said, we had huge vendor shows, bridal shows, spring. So we have lots of follow-up to do with that. So we're with that. We've also sent some specialized email, what COVID means if you had to reschedule your wedding, offering some solutions for that. The wedding booked locally because, everything in Chicago is locked down now through April 30th. So maybe you're going to look at it in the future. Here's some options, what it might look like, because some of those clients or potential clients aren't getting refunds from the vendors they booked with locally in a budget crunch as well. Other than that, we've been doing a lot more social media, than we've done before, live videos, post videos, so people can vacation virtually, keep people excited for travel and for the future.
Mm-hmm. And Madeline?
Yeah, I think, when this first started, it was all about it being, I guess when, I'm here for you, what can I do? We're all in this together, and things are changing so fast, and I'll give you information. I'm really not pretend to be the expert on something that I just am not the expert on. So they would come to me and they would say, well, when is Italy going to open up? And I'm like, I don't know. And so it was all about a lot of communication and looking. When this first started, I was looking at cancellation windows. Tour operators, we booked directly with the hotels and directly with the local guides. So it was all about, okay, you're supposed to depart March 6th, or let's book your hotel can't be canceled without a penalty after March 6th. Let's have a call on March 1st, that type of approach. So there was a lot of communication initially while Italy was still open and while it was all uncertain. And then sorry, I just heard some feedback there.
Phew, that was really weird. But Jeni's mouth wasn't moving.
I wasn't
but as the information, I think our clients have settled into this kind of world of ever-changing chaos that we now all live in, where, at first the hotels were like, we'll give you a credit, but you have to use it by June. And now they're like, well, now we'll give you a credit, but you have to use it by the end of 2022. So things are changing, and I think our clients are now more comfortable with that. They're not looking to me to say what's the answer. They're also getting, and so my communication has kind of shifted, not into information giving, but into, I'm here, how can I help gather? And what I've found is that, this is an interesting opportunity right now, because what I found is, we work with a few people who are, high-level executives who are like, I value your expertise, I value your customization, I don't have time trip, it needs to go really well because I only have 2 weeks of vacation a year, so please just do it. And these people are, and so, they're my clients, and obviously them for us, but people have a lot more time now, is what I've found. And so when I just call and I'm like, hey, how's it going? A, grateful, but B, have more time to chat. And they just appreciate it, even though I don't have quote unquote answers.
So are all of you recommending to your clients not to cancel or until right before the date? Things are changing so quickly. Is that what you're recommending? Jay, you can start off.
Yeah, actually, one thing I do want to add to your previous question, we created a page off of our website, which gives COVID-19 updates. So it has links out to the CDC. So it's a long page, a good resource information, and has a map exactly where it is and all the locations. So are we making recommendations to not to cancel?
Until right before.
We don't look at it as that's our position. Our position is as much information as possible for them to make the right decision. Again, we're kind of dealing with a little bit different type of client. So it's a corporate client, and they're going to make decisions what's best with respect to their company culture, what's best with respect to their clients in travel. And so our recommendations are to provide as much information as we can so they can make the best possible decision.
Okay. Jeni?
We're not recommending one way or the other. Kind of like Jay said, we're letting people make their own information we can give them. So in one of our emails, we did send out the links as well. But luckily, we haven't had as much as I was afraid of. But part of that is too, people, unless they know for sure that their work is going to be involved, like I said before, a lot of people have chosen to wait to see what happens. Right now, everything for 6 weeks at least was canceled pretty quickly. as of those other rules and regulations. But the way the policies were changing, a lot of them did decide to kind of wait it out and to see what was going to happen, if the airlines were going to stop flying to Mexico or if the resorts were going to close. So several people that were leaning that direction did get upon themselves to wait until closer to the travel date and then had the decisions made for them when the resorts started closing.
And what percentage of your were rebooked or like canceled versus waiting to rebook?
We're about 20% cancellation and 80% for later this year.
Okay. And Madeline, how about you for a recommendation?
Yeah, I also have had the same approach as Jay and Jeni to give people the information and then let them decide. And I've really leaned on the, and none of our clients want to cancel. They all want to rebook. So, and even beyond, we sold March and April trips, but we haven't canceled trips in June and beyond. They want to just wait. And, let me know what communication you get from the airlines. And we have a couple of trips that are doing cruises, and then the cruise ends in Venice, and then we're doing a 2-week itinerary for them. And so I'm saying, let me know what the cruise says, and leaning on that.
And what percentage of your bookings are canceled versus rebooked?
None of them are canceled. They're all rebooked. Yeah, they all want to rebook. And one of me, we already have our summer vacation for 20. They don't want to. They're not rebooking in 2020. And so one of them said to me, we already have our summer 2021, so we want to use our credit for 2022 because I actually charge planning fees. And so the deposit that my clients have sent me for the plan, I say you can use it as a credit in the future. So he's already said summer of 2022, we're back. Put us in your calendar.
Very organized individual.
I know.
Well, let's see. So, Jay, the cruise lines are protecting commissions for agencies, but corporate agencies have the commission protection on the commissionable tickets. So I think one of the things that maybe for the traveling public that goes with agencies is that these, like what happens to the commissions that you receive for the tickets that you booked in January and February that hadn't traveled?
We no longer have that. So that commission goes back to the carrier. Yeah, so it's not protected. Perhaps we're in the wrong segment of the business. I don't know, but yeah, the airlines do not protect commissions like the cruise lines, and it's just the way it is. It's just part of doing business on the corporate side. We do operate on a service fee basis, and depending on what the situation with contracts. Yeah, so no revenue when it comes to those transactions that were done.
Yeah, and having one of the challenges for agencies, and it's not, I think it's not just corporate, it's also going to be leisure agencies that maybe with, depending on which, that they may have had to pay back some commissions. But for those unfamiliar with duty of care, which is something that's really a word that's tossed around a lot in corporate, and it applies to leisure, but you don't hear anyone saying duty of care. Really quickly what that is, and then share about how that's been really challenging for you as a corporate agency.
Sure. We have about an hour.
Yes. Can you sum it up in 30 seconds?
Okay. So just some quick history about duty of care. Duty of care really got taken right after 9/11. Really when companies were trying to track where their employees are. In some cases, were not able to do so because they didn't have the mechanisms in place. So duty of care, it can happen on multiple levels. The first level really is known as are. So a company really does have let's call it a duty of care of their travelers. Just the fact that if something happens to them, just say simply in a hotel in Baltimore, and it's a bad hotel, and they go in there and something goes wrong. If the company doesn't know where that traveler is, and it's on company business, that company is going to be liable. So there's some responsibilities that companies do take and have to take with respect to travel. And so the first level is tracking. So the systems that are put in place, such as what we do, we're able to help them track and where they are at that time. And then there's some other features, notifications showing where travelers are, if they're going in any hot spots within a particular area, domestic, international. But duty of care, yes, it's a big feature today in the corporate market. And the bottom line is, if a company is not using a travel management company, corporate travel agency, and they're good, just tell them to go buy anywhere, there is no duty of care because there's no ability to track it consistently.
Mm-hmm. So Jeni, you've had some challenges too, and this is something that I think with, again, the traveling public, they're not aware of, the challenges if they book through an agency, that an agency can only do so much. Some challenges on rate changes on rebookings that you're doing. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how that works?
Sure. For a lot of our rescheduled bookings this time of year, they were to Mexico and Caribbean. And we do work through tour operators, but then the tour operator resort, again, rules are changing all of the time. So we have had some resorts that are protecting the amount that the clients paid in March and letting them move that amount for the future booking, which is huge if they want to go in, September, which is rates are usually higher at that time. But a lot of the other ones, now they've chosen to rebook, which I'm thankful for, but the rates are gone up, seen 20 to 40% on some of the resorts. And from a business standpoint, I understand it because those resorts are closed right now, but trying to explain that when now they have not canceled, they are still looking forward to going, they still want to work with you, and you have to go back and say, yes, but now you have to pay even more money. They don't understand it. And I don't really have much to tell them because I understand an increase, but not up to 40%. Mm-hmm. I think it's the resorts to be doing that to clients if they really want them coming back. And I don't know if the airlines are going to follow suit, for travel as well. Right now, there's great fares out there that people keep talking about, but I just wonder how long that'll last.
Mm-hmm. And chargebacks have been an issue for some agencies. So when a client is unhappy with the refund, or if they can't get a refund and they're just getting a credit and they want to get that refund, they'll do a chargeback on their credit card. And a lot of them aren't realizing that it's the agency that's on to pay for this vacation or airline ticket. Are you worried about this and are other agencies, Jeni?
I'm very concerned because that's enough to shut some small agencies down when they are losing, 4 to 6 months of commissions. Knock on wood, I have not had any yet, but I also have lots of clients waiting for refunds that we've been told a dollar amount, but until those hit those credit cards, that's still up in the air. I think the media has done a huge disservice when it comes to chargebacks. One of the morning talk shows had on there to call and tell them you're unhappy. But people don't realize that does not go to the tour operator that was paid or the resort that was paid. Most of the time, that the travel agent, and that travel agent is responsible for that money. I'm also finding out through a lot of the groups I belong to and boards that there's a lot of travel advisors that don't have their documents in order. They don't get signatures for credit cards. They're doing lots of, from a business standpoint, it's just not a good practice. So it's definitely a time to go back and review what you're doing, the CRM actually will do for you. And also your contracts. We do a lot of destination weddings, and those group contracts need to include something. If one of those clients decides to do a chargeback, whose responsibility is it? Is it yours as the agent, or is it the bride and groom?
Mm-hmm. It's a great point. For those that are listening, so ASTA on their webinar on Monday, the American Society of Travel Advisors mentioned that chargebacks is kind of their next battlefront that they're going to be working on. And for those of you that haven't been watching the ASTA webinars, they've played a crucial role in getting support for agencies through this as part of the Airline Relief Fund. And so I would highly encourage anyone that's listening to join ASTA now, and as added incentive. So if you're not an ASTA member and you're an attractor and you're looking to join, the team at HAR has donated a bunch of money to ASTA to kind of bring down the price. Normally it's $199, and we're paying $175 of it for a certain amount of ICs. So now, and use the code HAR 2020. So you can go to their site. I don't know how many people it will last for. So if you're thinking about it, go ahead and do it now. It's a great resource, and I think it's so important to be supporting them at this time because they're our voice on the Hill. So,
Steph, I heard you did that. Congratulations. It's money well spent. And, honestly, if you're not an ASTA member, you really need to look at your own business. And because ASTA has, I will say, most likely saved the industry. Has most likely saved the industry for where it is. So thank you for doing that, Steph.
You're welcome. We were trying to figure out the best way to help the travel agency community, and I decided the best way, we're not going to be able to save anyone's business by giving them loans. We don't have that kind of money, but the best way would be to support ASTA and then also this to agents through that. And also, too, to note, a lot of ASTA's webinars prior to this were open to everybody for updates, and now they're going only. So that's another incentive to join ASTA right now. So enough plugs on ASTA. So Madeline, you're a little bit different because you don't book with tour operators and do packages. You're doing custom FIT trips. And then 80% income comes from consulting and planning fees. And if anyone's more interested in how she does that and how that works, you can do our podcast, Travel Agent Chatter, and we'll put a link in the comments. But you can go to hostagencyreviews.com/TAC and then click on Madeline's episode, and it'll go into more detail. But what has it been like for you, Madeline, dealing with the hotels directly instead of a tour operator? I mean, they're all small businesses. What are they offering to clients? How's that been going?
Yeah, it's evolved. So at first, they were kind of sticking to their regular cancellation. So we sent when our trip that was supposed to depart March 1st canceled. It was too late. The hotels were prepaid, and they said, one of them said, yeah, you can have 50% of the amount credit, but you have to use it by June of 2020. Another one said you can have 50% of the amount as a credit, but you have to use it by December of 2020. And those were like the early hotels as this was still starting. And what we found as we've been canceling hotels is the hotels have just been more and more and more flexible and more and easy to work with. So they went from saying, we'll refund your non-refundable deposit. Now they're refunding a non-refundable deposit. They're just, they're super grateful. They want, and I tell them we're not canceling, we'll rebook. So, and so the ones that are giving a credit are, again, giving us very, very generous credit terms. Use this credit through the end of 2020. One of them said, wow. And they're really trying to make it as easy as possible. We also booked directly with local guides, and we had a couple of prepaid tours that were under normal circumstances would have been a non-refundable prepayment, and the guides completely refunded it. And these are private guides who are independent contractors who don't have any business right now. They didn't have to refund it. And I didn't even ask for a refund. I just said we're canceling, and they just sent the money back. And I think it's also because we have long-standing relationships with them. When I go to Italy, I meet them for dinner, and say thank you so much for taking good care of our clients. And so these are people that I know that we've been working with for a long time. But the amount of generosity and flexibility that is coming out of small businesses who are hurting right now has been unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. And I think you mentioned when we talked earlier that in Italy, the government is giving something like 600 euros. That's their support for the small businesses.
I think so. I've been hearing from my vendors. I heard from one of our drivers. The drivers are really hurting because the insurance to be like a valid insured qualified driver is really high. So they actually have costs that are higher than just a private guide, for example. So I heard from one of the drivers that they hadn't gotten anything, and then I heard from I'd gotten a promise of 600 euros, but he hadn't seen the money yet. And I know there is a program. I was talking to my staff member in Assisi, and she said that the government initially said, we have this bucket of money, you need to apply to receive it, and the online application will be open on April 1st at midnight, and it's first come, first serve. And so the Italian, and it included independent contractors, so everybody was going ballistic because you have to get your accountant to do it. So the Italian system is so bureaucratic and convoluted that you can't, as an independent contractor, go do this yourself. So she was saying all the accountants were like, I'm not going online and type in all the information of my clients, forget that. So the government, I think as of yesterday or the day before, said, don't worry, there's going to be enough money for everybody to go around. So you can all just calm down.
Good. So let's touch on kind of insurance, because I know that's also an issue with travelers, that they're not understanding if they purchased insurance that it may or may not cover COVID. So Jeni, what about your clients who purchased insurance? What are you telling them, and what are you seeing?
Even with that, it's kind of a holding pattern, because a lot of the tour operators or resorts are saying they're refunding 100% automatically, but their cancel for any reason insurance, even if they had it, might have only been 75%. So at this point, we have not been filing any insurance claims. I have everyone who had insurance has been sent a copy of their policy and the information on who they need to contact with questions. So I guess that's one of the good things about being out of the insurance side of it now, is that we can just pass them on to somebody that knows more about insurance than I do. And luckily, a lot of my wedding guests, they're the ones that typically decide to decline insurance. If they've had questions on it, remind them that they signed my waiver that they declined insurance, and tell them, the best we can do is whatever the tour operator or resort is going to give you back. So waiting stage to see how that plays out. But I do think that's going to be a big question moving forward, is, what's covered and what's not covered, how people can change the rules as we go.
And as you're mentioning kind of these waivers that people should be signing, if anyone listening doesn't have an insurance waiver or other kind of disclaimers when someone books with you, like letting them know that their passport needs to be valid from 6 months after they travel, and different things like that, we'll put a link in the comments to our travel agent forms. They're free, you can download them. It has all the verbiage on there for you. It's really easy. But during this downtime, I would encourage you to set up a form like that if you don't already. Jay, what about you?
Insurance really isn't, it's not our focus on the corporate side. So we really have not seen as much of an occasion for it. But I tell you, it will be interesting when we come out on the other side, and how attorneys and underwriters are going to address pandemics such as this in their language. And I think for anything, it's going to be included in there. And even with our contracts that we have with suppliers and other areas, you look at it, it's not considered an act of God, and it's not considered terrorism. So where does it fall? It doesn't fall anywhere right now. So I think it's going to be very interesting as we move forward.
Mm-hmm. Madeline, for your clients that purchase, because you do insurance a little differently than an agency that specializes in working with tour operators and vacation packages.
Yeah, because I don't have I do everything from the bottom up. So my planning fees are separate, and then everything else, all the costs are transparent. And what it means is that a lot of the costs are paid for by the clients directly on the trip. So there aren't a lot of upfront costs for our clients, except for, the 30% non-refundable deposit here and there. So the big chunk of it is really the air. I do always tell people to buy, the cancel for any reason insurance. If I start working with someone that has some kind of health condition that could cause them to have to cancel, I do always recommend that they buy that right up front. And I do always, and our clients usually book their own air. I don't book air. So they always make that decision on whether they cover their air with travel insurance at that time. And that's, again, not something that I deal with. But I did have a trip. We had a graduation class school that went, and it was a graduating class. And I did, add up all the, and because they were 17-year-olds, they were young and healthy. I wasn't worried about having to cancel for any reason, insurance due to pre-existing health conditions. But we did tally up the cost of their trip at a certain point, and I did recommend that they get travel insurance to cover it, and they declined. And I have it in writing, obviously, and they had to cancel. And it was kind of a PR problem for the school, because the school had to say to the parents, you guys paid X amount for this graduation trip, and we're going to get back a very small amount of it. But they had declined the insurance. There wasn't really anything I could do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, again, like, it's changing. And my current, I do have clients that have got insurance, but as Jay mentioned, it doesn't cover much. So it's really, we're relying on the airlines to say, hey, we're giving you a credit, regardless of insurance.
Well, we'll just do a couple more questions. So those that are listening in and tuning in, start asking your questions in the comments, and we'll get to them in just a second. But Jay, I know you don't have, well, at least I don't think you have some kind of a magic ball that predicts the future. I don't know. But when do you think corporate agencies will have kind of reached the bottom, and when are you forecasting things will pick up?
Well, I don't know if we can go any lower than where we are today. But I think I would say that we had bottomed out at this point. There's no doubt about that. And, we're budgeting that, April is going to be just the same as March. We're also expecting that May will probably be similar as well. Maybe a little better, but probably similar. Expecting that June, we're going to start seeing some uptick. Who knows? Of course, the only place, I think it was Dr. Fauci said that the only place that actually has a timeline is the virus itself. And
that sounds like something he would say. I really like it.
Exactly. So, if I were to place it, I should be in Vegas then, if I could actually call it. But we're expecting that June should be around.
Mm-hmm. And I think for any travelers that are listening to that, with corporate, right? Well, and with all, but the number of transactions that they're doing, are all, they're not making any money. They're losing money on every single transaction they're making. So it's very painful for travel agencies out there. Jeni, Madeline, do you have any thoughts on when you're kind of expecting things to pick back up, or what you're doing for your financial forecasting in the future?
I have, the conversation that I have with people is kind of along the lines of when Italy is healthy. So Italians right now are quarantined inside, or shelter in place, I guess, or whatever you call it, inside their home. The first step has to be that, and I believe the infection level has started going down, but it hasn't stabilized yet. So I've just said to people, step one has to be that the infection level is stabilized in Italy. Step two is then that Italians can come out of their homes. Step three is that maybe the schools open up. And my staff, when I was talking to her yesterday, said that the tentative forecast right now is middle of May for the Italians to start going back to school if everything is proceeding smoothly. And then maybe the Italian businesses start to open up, but the Italians can't let anybody into their country from a country that's infected. And for right now, I've been watching this since middle of February, early February. The US seems to be about 3 weeks behind Italy. So Italy can't let anybody in until everybody else is stabilized. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think domestic people are Americans as soon as we're allowed, people are dying to start traveling. And I think domestic car travel is first. And then domestic flights, obviously, and then international, who knows after that, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Jeni, what about you for kind of business planning in the future? What are you preparing for?
I'm very optimistic that by July, people will start traveling again. I'm hoping airlines and resorts do come back to us with some lower rates, people going. We can use the summer vacations season to get some people back out there. I truly think, though, it's going to be fourth quarter before it's going to take at least a year to get back to what normal is for a lot of agencies. I do hope by fourth quarter we're at least on the upswing and can start getting those people booked. People are more comfortable with what's going, what has happened, what they've been through, and we'll see a good fourth quarter and then starting into next year.
Mm-hmm. I know there was talk for a while of a really sharp uptick in travel right after, but I think as this is drawing out, people are realizing it might be more of a slow, gradual increase in travel. So, well, I don't want to end this. This was a lot of talking about going in the travel industry, which aren't great right now. But I wanted to kind of end with silver linings that we're seeing through this. So, if you guys wouldn't mind sharing a silver lining that you're seeing, whether in business or just in life in general. Madeline, do you want to start?
Absolutely. This is really a gift of time that none of us expected. And, it's a perfect time for us to work on our marketing. I am in a little bit of a unique position in that I have built my business online. I have written content to position myself online as an Italy expert, and my clients have found me almost exclusively online. And so I know how to create content that attracts clients. And I have been teaching that. I did a webinar yesterday for a group of travel agents to say, use this gift of time. Let me show you how to put content online. And by the time this crisis is over, Google will have indexed your content and you'll have a whole new stream of new customers. And, I think it gave them focus on something to do to feel productive. And in the end of it, they'll have a new stream of customers. And they wouldn't be able to do that if they were doing in their usual busy booking period. So I think it's, the Chinese symbol for crisis is the two symbols of danger and opportunity. And I think if we look, we can look around and see opportunity in this crisis.
Mm-hmm. And Jeni?
To piggyback on what Madeline has said, I agree. This is a perfect time for advisors to hone their skills, look over their marketing plans or create one, look over their contracts, their paperwork, things like that. How you communicate with your clients definitely needs an overhaul, and especially when it comes to something like this. I also think for advisors, people will begin to look at us as the professional agents that we are. One of the good things that's come out of the media is the rise of missed opportunity by big box travel agencies, OTAs, agencies that do this as a hobby and really do it to travel free and not as a business. There's some great agents that do that, but they're not used to being in the trenches and the what ifs. And this is a huge what if that we're all dealing with. So I think from the standpoint, advisors that are using this to move their business forward will come out on top, and they'll be rewarded for it, even though it's going to be a ways down.
Mm-hmm. And Jay, what you got?
Yeah, I think that there are many. We look at this, there are many silver linings to this. And one is the opportunity really for companies to really take the time and get further serious about their travel programs, reviewing their travel policies, duty of care, online systems, and and really strengthening that partnership that we have with them to really further develop it. The other is really a tighter relationship, not only with clients, but really our staff, and really strengthening that and building those relationships, further with training and we can do to be more efficient. And then suppliers, we are really working very even closer with our suppliers to understand their needs, to understand our needs, and so on. And really, another area is reorganizing. Is this process that we've been doing, is this the best way? They're almost looking at this as a clean slate. How can we build this moving forward in future? How do we create greater efficiencies, and how do we streamline? And lastly, this is looking for travelers. And it's a tremendous opportunity for travelers on the other side. There are going to be a lot of negotiating opportunities, and I would fully expect these travel management companies will also be recipients of incentives from suppliers, additional incentives from suppliers.
That's perfect. One quick thing that at HAR we're looking at is when the economy goes bad and a lot of people are laid off. For quite a few people, and the push they need to start their own company. So we're hoping what we saw with the Great Recession was a lot of people join the industry because they didn't really have a choice. And so through this, we might be getting quite a few people joining the industry, newbies, which will be nice too. So let's go through some questions. Let's see. So, okay, so how do we charge back? Can we? That's a great question. I would say for avoiding, it depends which kind of travel you're booking. So Jay, maybe you can speak to it's impossible to avoid a charge back with the airlines and the GDS system, unless you have the.
Yeah, on the corporate side, it's not as much of an issue on the corporate side. It's whenever you have one-offs. On the corporate working with a company, if somebody, let's say they're doing personal cards, somebody declines it, we can easily go back to the company and say, hey, come here. So we can address it that way. But it's really the one-offs. The guy who walks in off the street and says, hey, I want to use this, and somebody who we don't normally do business with. Yeah, the airlines, sometimes they'll help in protecting, oftentimes they won't.
Mm-hmm. Jeni, how do you avoid chargeback?
For us, it's really working with the suppliers. Reaching out to the supplier. It's a perfect time to figure out who your preferred suppliers are. If you haven't created that relationship, get on their radar, because that is saving a lot of the agents I know from chargebacks that initially the tour operator said they would not cover it, but now they're at the point that they will, or they'll make some concessions. Really, that's it, is going back to your suppliers who it was booked through and working with them.
Mm-hmm. And Madeline?
I don't. I don't.
Do you charge back?
No, it doesn't enter my
I
world.
like that.
No, I don't. I get paid my fees directly from the client, and then I use the client's credit card to book everything directly. So I don't have any middle.
Gotcha.
I'm not a tour operator. I'm not the legal. I'm not a.
Let's see. So we have a question from Tony. If your host agency closes, what do you do with your future bookings or credits? So Tony, if your host agency closes, you'll probably, it depends on how helpful the host agency is, but they should move those bookings to your next host agency. If they don't, you're going to have to work with the vendor. They'll be aware because there'll be quite a few bookings probably from that host, and we'll be able to move the bookings to a new agency. Let's see. We also have, let's see, how governments will support small travel agent businesses. So Malik, that's a great question. This is, again, to plug ASTA. ASTA has been doing a lot of resources for agencies to kind of break down what's going on. The SBA, for most small businesses, there's the SBA loans are going to be a great option for you. There's the PPP, or the Personal Paycheck Protection Program, which you can apply for. There's the, what's the other one? Oh, unemployment. You can also apply for unemployment. It's kind of the other big one. Even if in contracts where there's been legislation passed to help you. And we'll put some links in the comments to those. ASTA has some webinars on their YouTube page that would be helpful for you to watch. I don't know if they'll keep those public for how long, but we'll put up the links up there if they're. So, and let's see. That one. Yeah, I think that's all the questions we have, which is perfect. So I wanted to say thanks everyone for tuning in. And again, if you're going to be joining to access those resources, make sure to use in your independent contractor, I should mention, you can use the HAR 2020 code, HAR20, and get $175 off. It'll only cost you $25 to join. But thank you to Jay, Jeni, and Madeline for taking the time today. I know you're all so busy working with clients and trying to keep up with everything in the news. I really appreciate you being here, and thank you everyone for listening. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Steph.
Thank you, Steph.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, stay
Thank
safe,
you.
everybody, and hopefully we'll chat soon because I just don't get to chat with anyone anymore.